Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I just realized that I blend in with the wood shop. Good. I just learned a few days ago that October, which we're in right now, is ADHD Awareness Month, which I had no idea existed, but it kind of led me into this idea and just was a perfect time for it. Today I am going to be filming a video that I'm excited about because this information is kind of some things that I think are helpful for me when dealing with trying to plan a project, start a project, all while working around the fact that I have an ADHD brain. What's kind of cool though is that people who don't have ADHD sometimes struggle with motivation and attention and focus. So even if you don't, if that's not your situation, you still might be able to get some tips from this video. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 different tips or steps that I kind of use when planning and executing my DIY project specifically, but really it can be applied to anything that you want to start or accomplish. So the first thing, and if you have ADHD, you will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that starting is the hardest. Like literally, I wanted to film this very video the other day and all day long I couldn't do it because the thought of setting up my camera was too overwhelming. So I just didn't. For me, the way I kind of think about starting is like if you imagine your productivity or your momentum in a task to be like a freeway, then your starting needs to be something that gets you onto the freeway. So it needs to be an on-ramp, right? So when we look for on-ramps, when it comes to a task or a project, it depends on what motivates you as a person or your brain. And for me, because I have ADHD, the things that motivate me are things that I find interesting or something that's like a competition, a challenge, a need, something that needs to be done for somebody else. All of these things are like on-ramps for me and for a lot of people with ADHD. So if you can find the way in which your task or project is motivating to your brain, or if you can modify it a little bit to be motivating, that's your on-ramp. Another thing that I find helps me to set myself up for success, and by success, I usually mean a situation where I don't get overwhelmed or bored and then quit. So another thing that I do to set myself up for success is to make sure that I can complete the project without having to like wait on something or someone. So here's an example. If I'm doing a DIY project around the house and I know that I'm going to need cabinet hardware, a light fixture, and some outlet covers, I have to make sure that before I even start, I have all of those things, or at the very least, they're on their way. Sometimes I have to ship things for projects, and if I know that they're on their way, that's at least like a little bit of a mental cushion or protection against the mental overwhelm that comes from when I run out of something or when I don't have something and I can't complete a task. And then there's this really significant risk of me just not finishing it because it's too overwhelming to go get the thing or then to order the thing. So if the things that you need to complete the task or project are all with you or soon to be with you, all of that is kind of in motion, that can be really, really helpful. It just takes parts of this that are mental to-do list tasks off of your plate so you can really focus on the actual doing. Okay, so the next step that I take or tip that I have is just kind of the way that I plan a project. You might be like me in that I tend to plan and plan and plan and plan and never do sometimes. And then there are other times where I just do without planning at all. But I think that the best results come from having a plan that is just enough to let me know like the things that I need, where I need to get them from, get that in motion, and maybe the skills or the information I'm gonna need to have in order to execute the plan. But having a plan in some form is usually very helpful. My plans can be, like I said, kind of like shopping lists, a lot of times sketches or cut lists or even step-by-step instructions, but just to have something usually on paper is really, really helpful because it gives me mental momentum, and that is the key. The next one, and this is really important and kind of a balancing act, so I really have to have something of a plan most of the time, but I have to have room in that plan and flexibility in my mind to give myself permission for that plan to change and evolve. And I mean, by the end of the project, it may look completely different than the original plan. And I have to go into it knowing that that is okay and usually expected, at least for me, because I have to go with my inspiration or like what I'm interested in or what I feel in the moment. And if I have a rigid plan and then I start to feel something different about it and I can't be flexible, that's when I will get overwhelmed and quit. And the last one is what I call protect my momentum. So specifically in the case of ADHD, a lot of times our struggle is what is often described as motivation, but it's much more complicated than that. So a lot of people say that rather than focus on finding the motivation, it's better and more productive to focus on finding and maintaining momentum, because once you've found that on-ramp, once you're on the freeway, you can go for a very long time and be very, very productive, but it's the getting on that's hard. It's the finding the momentum that's hard. And then once you've found it, you have to protect it, because there are things they can take it away from you and then you're just done. So the ways that I like to protect my momentum, in addition to the things that I've already talked about, which all kind of do that, are things like if I find myself stalling out or getting stuck, there are certain things that I can do to kind of like revitalize my energy and my momentum. So sometimes it's by like gamifying the task that I'm doing. For example, I had a really hard time once again today coming out here to film this because I was just overwhelmed in my mind about it. So I decided to make a list of all of the steps to making this video, and I wrote down next to each one how much time each one should take, and in my mind that kind of made it like a game. It's like a challenge. Each task I have a time and I can kind of monitor that and compete against myself, and then when I'm done I can check it off, and that's super satisfying. The ADHD brain has trouble with dopamine, which is why we tend to lose our momentum and have trouble with motivation. So anything that can kind of make you feel like you have small wins and reward your brain is always going to help protect your momentum. Okay, so that is it for this ADHD Awareness Month video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found it interesting and maybe helpful. I know it's a little bit different than the content that I've done on this channel before, but I feel like it is so relevant, especially with the DIY content that I do, because what nobody sees is the behind the scenes struggle that is trying to just get things done. And so anything that we can do to help each other to get things done and feel like we can succeed at things is always a good thing. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.